Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. Welcome to episode 54. This is a spoiler-filled episode, so spoilers will follow. Usually we do this for movies we don't like, but we're making a rare exception because I have a special entertainment correspondent, Scott Schreiber, here joining me. Hey, Scott.
Hello, Ed. How are you today?
Welcome. Your first time on the podcast. And
absolutely excited to be here, bud.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and joining us today out of your busy schedule. Scott, has written a couple of wonderful articles about the Oscars that you can check out at geekhomeworld.blogspot.com. So go on over there and check those articles out. As I was saying, we normally go spoiler-free, but we enjoyed this movie so much that we just have to spoil it. So if you have not seen Logan, this is what we're talking about, then just leave the room, come back to this later, go wash the dishes, whatever it is you've got to do. I don't know.
Yes, because with this movie, Logan, you pretty much have to talk about the entirety of the film. It's too good to not talk about every little thing, so sorry for the spoilers, but they're coming.
Yep, and so let's just break this sucker down. You ready to break this down?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. So we're talking in the future, 2029. Mutants are all but extinct. Think the movie Children of Men. That's what it reminds me of. Go check that out if you haven't. Another good movie. We have an older Logan character than we've seen on film. There's been 9 incarnations of Hugh Jackman as Logan, and we'll talk about that. So this is his 9th appearance as Wolverine, as Logan. And his healing factor is just kicking out on him. He needs some mutant Viagra, I think. It happens to the best of us. His testosterone is extremely low. So we see him in a very ill Professor X. And, Hugh Jackman owns the role of Logan. We have Patrick Stewart, obvious choice for Professor X. And they're hiding out near the Mexican border in the movie Logan. And Logan's trying to hide from the world and take care of Xavier when they come across this young mutant named Laura. And for 25 years, roughly, no new mutants, as far as anybody knows, have been born, except Laura.
And she's wonderfully played by a young newcomer named Daphne Keane. Just something else. I'm typically, I'm a little hard on child actors, but she did a great job, and
she really did.
Absolutely.
And they're being pursued by this group called the Reavers. If any of you read the Old Man Logan saga, that's basically what this film is based upon, and done brilliantly. Of those Reavers, we have Donald Pierce. He's the leader of the Reavers, and he's played by Boyd Holbrook. We also have playing Caliban.
Yeah, Stephen Merchant. Yes, the co-creator of The Office. It's nice seeing him do a dramatic role. He still lends a little bit of humor, but it's excellent to see him in this kind of role in the albino mutant tracker.
Right, and he never does that on The Office though. He never tracks any mutants. But
no, sure doesn't.
I must be mutant free at The Office. I don't know. Anyway, but what's interesting is, if you remember the character of Caliban, he was in X-Men Apocalypse, and he can sense mutants. So a little continuity going on there. How timely this movie is, talking about the young mutants and and they're wanting to escape to Canada. Actually, there's a group of them in Canada and all, because just like anybody, going through the political 2016 elections, they probably want to escape to Canada. So this movie kind of deals with immigration, and X-Men universe has always been good at dealing with topical things like race relations, any kinds of discrimination. So,
absolutely, and it definitely touches on, persecution again. A topic that keeps coming up in the X-Men universe. And these children want to escape and be safe, and their destination is Canada. And how many of us want to go to Canada right now?
A lot. And I will warn parents out there, if you don't know, and I swear I saw someone in the theater when we just saw the movie that brought a kid, but this is not your father's Logan. This is a R-rated, brutal,
R-rated. A hard R.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of soft for a while till he gets juiced up, but yeah, it's a very strong R rating for Logan. There's a part in the movie with Xavier, and I love Patrick Stewart. Patrick Stewart he's like Samuel Jackson. He could read the phone book and I would listen.
Oh, he's fantastic.
And another issue this film deals with that I picked up on is Logan caring for Professor X in his really fragile state.
Yes, it's the reverse of, Professor X taking care of him when he was young. Yes, absolutely.
But it also, that speaks to taking care of the elderly and elders' rights. And so I love how X-Men, I keep saying X-Men Logan. It's just called Logan.
It is just called Logan.
And
it's simply Logan.
This is not like any other comic book movie that you've seen.
No, it's a certain departure. It's more of a dramatic turn. Yes, there's some slice and dice, of course, that comes with the superhero movies, but it's more emotional. It's
more like an old Western
absolutely
type of story.
It calls back to films like
Shane.
Shane is a big part that he actually used footage from that film within this film and used dialogue from it as well. It's about the loner that needs redemption and comes to do one last good deed, and that is the true drama of this film.
Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of Unforgiven by Clint Eastwood.
Unforgiven's another one, absolutely. This is definitely in the realm of Western. It even has the New Mexico scenery, and to amplify that.
It was filmed in Louisiana also,
yes,
I believe, and
Louisiana.
And somewhere else.
And maybe, I think Quebec. I think there's some Canadian.
Blame Canada. But, as serious as it was, we did have the opening scene of Deadpool 2, essentially. And I love where it said Nathan Summers on the side of
the fake
of the
trailer.
Book. The fake trailer, I loved that. I thought that was great. But it worried me going into the movie that the movie might be not as serious, and boy, was it serious. But
yes, that the tone did not carry over from the Deadpool opening.
Thankfully. And for all of you looking for the suit, we saw the suit in several incarnations, the yellow and blue suit. In fact, I'm wearing the shirt I wore to the theater in homage to, I said, if Hugh Jackman won't put on the suit, it's kind of like 10 years of watching Smallville, and they put the damn suit on already. And but we saw one of the kids when they got to Canada to the safe place, and
safe haven, had a little action figure.
Yeah. I love that. And then there were the X-Men comics that they literally had in the movie, and he's like, this is all made up stuff. It was such a comment on the movie.
There's definitely some meta things going on there within the script, sure.
And there's actually towards the end of the movie when Professor X dies. Everybody dies in this movie.
Everybody does. Supporting characters, main characters, basically everybody. It's
like Game of Thrones.
It was a Game of Thrones type movie, but that lent to the emotions of it. You've got this ailing grandfather. You've got this
Right.
ailing father. I mean, they're both sick.
And the
And then
family,
you've got
oh my gosh, they got killed.
Yes, with Dr. Benton from ER. Yes,
Yeah.
Lyric LaSalle's family.
He did that.
That was brutal. Didn't
That
really
was very brutal. And
didn't see that coming. Honestly,
like, let
I
somebody-
should have, because everybody was dying. But
yeah, it's just, but it earned that R rating very much. And this movie was just like the Wolverine that came out, I believe, in 2013.
Yes.
Was directed by James Marigold and
Mangold.
Mangold. Oh, okay.
Sorry, they changed it.
They changed it. I hate when they
changed
do
it.
that.
They changed
and they
his
didn't
name.
tell me. And,
Mangold, and yeah, he usually does more dramatic work. Most notably, Walk the Line. Maybe that's why we were hearing so much Johnny Cash in the trailers.
I loved it.
Credits.
Well, oh my gosh, when they did "Hurt" by Johnny
trailer.
Cash for the trailers for this, wonderful. And then they played, was it the Journeyman or something? The man,
The one over the credits.
the man does something. Something about the man.
Yes, it has
all about the man.
in it. Yes, but
But it was very very fitting, and there were no after scenes, like every Marvel movie, and it didn't need it.
it did. There shouldn't have been one. No, because this is supposed to be, their end. And it was fitting. They're like, well, don't tease another one,
Right.
because this is its own thing.
Right.
It needs to stand alone.
And when Hugh Jackman's character, when Wolverine Logan, he actually dies in the film, and Laura, or X-23, she's known as Laura in the film, her and the little young mutants, or whatever they're calling themselves one day, they go and leave, and she's leading them somewhere, but she comes back before they leave, and she takes the cross out of the ground and turns it and makes it X.
Makes the X, and it's
I
very
thought that
fitting.
was
She
awesome.
She was the earlier scene when they used the footage from Shane. There, she sees the ending of that film,
Right.
and it touches her. She's very intent on it, and it touches her, and she recites those lines back over his grave, and then does that perfect moment of turning the cross into the X. It was a very fitting end to this trilogy, as it were.
Yeah, it was very heart wrenching. There were some kind of tear-jerky moments. I heard some people sniffling behind me.
Absolutely.
And
how many superhero movies can you say that people are crying? I mean, that does not happen.
It doesn't happen in a superhero movie. There is one thing that Xavier is kind of looking for redemption in this movie, and there's a moment when he starts, because basically Wolverine's keeping him kind of drugged up, and because he has these seizures. And there's a brilliant scene in the movie where everybody around this hotel basically were like temporarily paralyzed and almost killed, including
like
Wolverine.
the time when he stops time
yeah.
in the earlier films, very
Right.
much like that.
But it was very shaky. It looked the camera work on that, or what they did.
It was like he wasn't really controlling it as well as he used to.
Right, but they allude to what happened in Westchester, and they never explained it. And I think they said 600 people died or whatever. So I think we're alluding to the fact that this seizure that Professor X had previously, and he was taking this medication to not have that. Basically, when that happened, he accidentally killed the X-Men.
Possibly.
Possibly.
They don't really
say it.
go into it in detail. Logan does say that everyone he ever cared about is gone.
Right.
That everybody's dead. And then right before Professor X's demise, he has this revelation that he remembers, and he says, that I think I remember, what happened at Westchester, and then X-24 comes in, and
which is so Terminator Genesis, which you hated, which I loved.
Yeah, well,
and but it's basically taking an older. We have an older Wolverine versus our current Wolverine, our current Logan, and it was a brutal fight, and it took Laura with an adamantium bullet.
The final fight. There's two
final fight. There are two
epic fights between X-24 and Logan,
who was the original Weapon X.
Yes,
and just fascinating. It was just very riveting movie,
and that's that's the end to X-24 is one of those moments where this is definitely the hard R rating. There was.
Yes.
There are claws through how many skulls in this?
I think part of his head got blown off by the adamantium bullet.
Yes, that's definitely happened.
And I think I said to you in the meeting, like when Professor X was having his seizure thing and everything was kind of going, not to belittle that, but I was like, I guess that's what a migraine feels like.
Well,
but not on that level.
I don't think X-24 felt anything when that happened.
Yeah, he didn't feel much after that.
No.
And this is Hugh Jackman's and Patrick Stewart's final, as far as we know, final.
It's their swan song.
Their swan song.
They both come out and said this. They are done with their characters.
And this is, I believe, the 9th time that Wolverine has played. Hugh Jackman has played Wolverine. 10 if you count Deadpool, the little mask.
If you count the little magazine cover that he pulls and puts on his face. Yes. Right. But yeah, it's his 9th appearance. A couple of those are just short.
17-year run.
Yeah, a couple of those are just short cameos, but. There's 7 starring roles and then 2
I'm
cameos.
Resisting to talk about the one scene where he uses foul language, and I feel like I should curse, but I'm not.
Oh, well, one scene, that's another reason why this is R. You're seeing Professor X and Logan drop F-bombs throughout the entire movie. And thank you, Deadpool.
yeah, Deadpool, like I said before, Deadpool swung the door wide open to make the kind of R-rated Wolverine movie that we needed. You heard me say Berserker Age, and there's a point after Wolverine gets juiced up temporarily that he's his old self again. And
it is fitting, this, I think, to do the Wolverine and the Atom, the
adamantium.
Yes, the claws, to do what this was. The R rating does it justice.
Yeah.
The claws are violent, and those are a violent way to death, and you can do that with sound and illusion, but you really, you kind of, I do as an audience member, I do. I like seeing graphic violence. I'm
not big on graphic violence, but yes, I'm going to watch Walking Dead. So,
but I'm more. I like the how did they do that? It's not like I want to see somebody's head blown off. It's that I am fascinated by how did they do that?
Blew the head off.
But anyway, my point is that it's doing the violence that the claws can do justice, like
I said, this is the end of a 17-year run for Hugh Jackman. So what does the future hold for Wolverine without Hugh Jackman? I can't at this point even fathom who could play Wolverine. Even if they went back in time with Wolverine,
they could try to recast it and do a younger version, and they probably will. They're not stopping now. The X-Men franchise is too lucrative. They'll do something.
Even though it hasn't done, like Age of Apocalypse underperformed. And I was upset. Well, critically, I think box office wise, it didn't do as well as
in the world. I think the global
audiences
globally, it probably did well.
It did enough to constitute more.
But you're right here.
But I really wanted to see the next step. Obviously, is Onslaught, and I wanted to see that storyline. I got my X-Men Apocalypse finally on screen. Waited 20 some years for that, and it would be nice to see them do Onslaught because that could be the crossover that brings the whole Marvel
and the Avengers,
DC, brings everybody, Marvel and the Avengers, everybody, and that would be wonderful to see. But I doubt it. That would just be a real pipe dream.
You never know. I mean, the Marvel. they've done such a great job in the Marvel Universe with the films. In my opinion, they started off kind of rocky, but I think they've definitely picked up steam. The last few have been fantastic. And I think that
they had
they'll
to
continue
fix
that.
switching directors, Bryan Singer and all them, and messed up some of the that's where we got X-Men: The Last Stand that some fans didn't like, but I myself liked X-Men: The Last Stand.
I've liked every X-Men.
I didn't
That's my
dislike
favorite
it
part
as much.
of the Marvel Universe for sure. So.
And but my thing is X-Men Apocalypse for me was good because we did finally see the Phoenix, and I think done the right way. So they're heading in the right direction, and they fixed a lot of time paradoxes, and it's like Star Trek. You get into time travel, and it just messes with your mind, and what came first, and
sure. And
I
that
guess,
was maybe my problem with Terminator Genesis, but
yeah, that turned it on its ear, but it was interesting enough, and yeah. So I guess we ended here with a big question mark for the X universe, and for filling Hugh Jackman's role. Is it Days of Future Logan? I don't know.
Will there be one? And,
will there be one? And who can fill those claws?
And I think the easy answer is Daphne Keane. Continue the story of Laura. I just think
like
that's the easy.
Mutants,
absolutely. She did such a fantastic job. She's young. That could be where this franchise goes next.
Because we don't know that after the trilogy that ended with X-Men Apocalypse, we had Days of Future Past, and before that, X-Men First Class. That has run its cycle, so we're kind of a period now where Star Trek got for a while, where they're like, okay, where's the next movie coming? Mm-hmm. What direction do we go? And so I think we're that wave for... I don't think there's much more you can do with Wolverine that hasn't been done. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't, it's like Spider-Man, please don't show the origin again. We're done. We get it.
Right.
Batman,
and they touched on some major things, with the second film going to Japan and that
the
was
Wolverine. Yes,
absolutely.
And that hit a high for the franchise. And then this, I think, is just a really, it makes the first Wolverine movie look very comic book like. It looked very with Lib Schreiber in it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there.
My brother from another mother. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. But I still enjoyed that in its own merit. It screwed up Deadpool, but thank God they fixed that. And so that's all I have to say about that. We just leave it up to the days of future Logan's.
Logan's Laura.
Logan's Laura. There you go. It's an L. Okay.
Let's do it. Laura.
Well, thanks for joining me on this episode of the podcast.
My pleasure. I hope to do it many more times.
And we hope to hear more from you on the blog. And check out Scott's blog entries at geekhomeworld.blogspot.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Geek Homeworld, and thanks, y'all, everyone out there, for listening.
Geek Homeworld Review Preview.
And now we've got Scott, our entertainment correspondent, back with us, and we are talking about the 2017 Oscars.
Absolutely. Awesome night, I thought. I mean, I enjoyed Kimmel, and I enjoyed the night as a whole. My biggest takeaway was the historic win of Moonlight and the unfortunate mishap that kind of stole its thunder.
Yeah, it eclipsed the Moonlight there.
Yes, eclipsed the Moonlight. And, it's too bad because historically it will go down as an important film, an important moment for film, because it was the first film to ever have an LGBT community member at the center of its story. Think about that, 89 years of the Oscars, and that's never happened. So it was, a progressive moment, a historic moment, also the second film to ever win that was nominated or was directed by an African American after 12 Years a Slave. So, definitely the Academy making strides to show the diversity within the community.
And that is a good thing.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, it was overshadowed by this blunder by, it comes off as a blunder by Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde. We can't blame them, but they stole the Best Picture.
Yes, they stole it away, and unfortunately, but it wasn't their fault. The accountant who was supposed to be paying attention to what envelope he was handing out was too busy tweeting.
And at least he was tweeting something of the Oscars. Imagine if he was tweeting something else.
I would have thought he was tweeting Walking Dead.
Yeah,
but no, it was Emma Stone, and
a good thing he didn't. On the other end of it, that he didn't tweet what the Best Picture really was beforehand,
then give it away, and absolutely.
So,
but that guy most certainly.
The producer was the most of La La Land.
Yes.
Was so gracious.
Jordan Horowitz.
How he said, no, you guys won this, and it was really good. I mean, he was very gracious.
That was a great moment, and kind of made up for the fact that they didn't get their moment of being read, had their name, Moonlight, read out to the crowd.
But it was the lowest rated show since 2008, I believe.
Which was surprising to me a little bit, because, I don't know if people just don't care for Kimmel or just don't care about the Oscars anymore, right. But, it's sad because the musical performances were fantastic the entire night. That was a high point for me. Justin Timberlake opening it up with his Song of the Summer.
Yeah.
Which was, got the crowd to their feet, and then, then you go to John Legend, rearranging the two nominated songs from La La Land. Would have liked to seen Emma Stone get up there and sing, but still, that was a cool arrangement. He did a great job, and then the legendary Sting takes the stage.
Love Sting.
And, beautiful performance there, as was Sarah Bareilles' cover of Joni Mitchell, doing the In Memoriam. Was a very emotional song there, kind of saying goodbye to some of the greats. We lost so many people.
2016 was brutal.
It was absolutely brutal. I'll miss
everybody.
Gene Wilder the most, was one of the, for me at least, a big Mel Brooks fan, but his performances will live on. Willy
Princess
Wonka.
Leia.
Oh, yeah, of course, Princess Leia. Just some tough losses there, but the best performance of the night was Auli Cavallo from singing, the 16-year-old singing the Moana
You're
song.
welcome.
Not that one.
No.
How Far I'll Go was the name of that one, but
she got smacked in the head during her performance, and she held it together, and she did a wonderful job.
Powered on through, held her
It's just
composure,
beautiful.
showed up Mariah Carey.
Yeah, she showed up and worked.
Right?
Do your job.
Dude, you had one job.
You had one job.
Another couple of good moments. The candy drop I thought was great. It was fun. Upstaging.
Great for diabetics.
Upstaging Ellen DeGeneres' ordering pizza. I think Kimmel was trying to one-up her there. And also the tour group was great. I thought it was great. Some people didn't like it. It went on too long, maybe.
It did go on a little bit long, but it was fun. It was different.
Those people had a great time, and that's what's important.
They don't care who won. They were just like, look at me, I'm taking selfies.
Yeah, absolutely. Gary from Chicago.
Yeah.
Instant star.
There you go.
And my biggest takeaway, other than the Moonlight win, was the spreading of the wealth. The Academy awarded 10 to 12 different films.
There was probably more Best Picture nominees than I ever remember, and I could be wrong about that, but it seemed like everything was nominated.
Well, they've started to do that in the last 5 years or so. They've nominated. They leave it open to 10. They can nominate 10 now. Wow. And the idea was to get in the more blockbuster films. I think there was an uproar after Dark Knight didn't get nominated.
Right. So
things changed.
But Heath Ledger got one.
But yeah, of course, Heath Ledger in that legendary performance. And but it was nice to see a lot of films get one. You had Hacksaw win a couple, Arrival won one,
Both
Jungle
great
Book
movies that I enjoyed. Jungle Book overrated, I think.
You can't go wrong. I mean, the fact that was all on green screen and it didn't, I thought was pretty impressive, but
wasn't as true to like the Jungle Book that I remember. But,
I gotcha.
I still didn't hate it.
I still, it's definitely had elements of the old one, but I get what you're saying. Right. But how about Suicide Squad winning one?
Surprising.
I mean, the makeup, though, you can't take anything away from that makeup department.
When
Killer
they started
Croc.
showing it, I'm like, I get it. Jared Leto, how many tattoos can you put on? But you're still not the Joker to me. But that's cool.
And, and La La Land taking home 6 was, I enjoyed that. Even though they're spreading the wealth, it won the lion's share. It kind of goes to show you that the best made film doesn't always win.
Right.
It's the socially and politically important film that does. It's the little engine that could, the independent.
Which gives hope to filmmakers such as ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, you got I think Moonlight's budget was $1.5 million. It might have been 2.5, something like that.
It was a Snickers bar and a piece of gum, basically.
The trends that I'm starting to see is that best director and best editing used to basically be a predictor of who would win best picture.
Or even producer, yeah.
And so, but 4 of the last 5 best directors have not matched up with best picture, which I think that's the Academy trying to share the love, say, here's, let's give it to these 2 great films.
Right.
Director for one, picture for the other.
Because with Moonlight and La La Land, they basically switched it around,
Absolutely. So. And I think that's a trend that we're seeing, that the little Independent Spirit Awards is kind of a predictor now. 5 of the last 6 Best Picture winners, won Best Feature at the Independent Spirit Awards. And I think that's what we're seeing now, these little
engines that could.
Absolutely, that are winning and taking home that big prize on Oscar night.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us on this segment, Scott, once again.
Absolutely. Love
our
doing
entertainment correspondent. If you want to hear more about a very in-depth preview and recap of the 2017 Oscars, check our blog at geekhomeworld.blogspot.com, and you'll be able to read Scott's mind. And you can email him there and send him wonderful emails on your thoughts and all that. Plus, you can reach us, of course, at Geek Homeworld on Twitter. And thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes, see us on YouTube, be part of our Mixler chats. Thank you. See you again on the Geek Homeworld podcast.
Geek Homeworld.